The following program is rated S for satire. We are not professionals, nor are we clinically depressed. We do, however, suffer from long bouts of indecision and stagnation. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to this week's episode of the Take That Depression, the Project CC ARC podcast. It's a mouthful. I'm Kyler. That's Spencer.
Good evening.
How are you doing this week, Spencer?
If I'm being real with you, I feel like butt today. I woke up not feeling good, Mr. Stark.
Yeah, I've been sick the past couple days. We're going to power through this. We got a double recording ahead of us. So we hope that we don't sound too bad. We're set up in the new space. It's going to sound echoey.
New studio!
Yeah, new
Call it what it is.
It's probably going to sound a little bit echoey in here. I just talking to Spencer right before he hit the record button. I've got my sound foam expanding right now. It just came in today. So we're going to get that set up, hopefully, for the next episode, which will actually be 2 episodes away because we're double recording today. That all being said, we wanted to take a moment and kind of dig back into our roots a little bit. Episodes 1 through 14, 15, 20, 12-ish, something like that.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Where we were kind of explaining something that we wanted to learn about, something like that. And we thought there's no better time than right now to take a second and look at story frameworks. If you're going to write down, if you're going to start a story like we're doing now, what kind of frameworks you can use. And I don't know, did you know about these before, this week?
No,
Okay.
Well, kind of.
Okay.
I knew of the Hero's Call, which we'll get into. It was. I've said it before. I've never written a story before, so after not having ideas and not even knowing where to start, I dove in a little bit. I'm like, how do I even do this?
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing that popped up was the Hero's Call, or Hero's Journey, rather.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's a structure for this. There's actually something that you just kind of insert, and so that was really cool. I haven't deep dove into it before, super big until today. Or before this video.
Yeah.
But it was really cool to see, and I think that's going to help us a lot along the way learning about frameworks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I didn't know anything about that. I knew of the hero's journey. But not in that it was a story writing framework. I'd heard it in passing doing other stuff. So yeah, you had found a video which I will link in the description that very, very informative. It really lays out the main, I think, 5 that we're going to cover today. And we're going to do a super high level super high level explanation of them. If you want a more in-depth, the video that we've linked in the description of the podcast will be way better at explaining anything. So if you one piques your interest, go check that out. If you're just curious about how to begin storyboarding, story writing, go check it out. It was very, very good. I watched it or listened to it. I got it at work, listened to it, and I listened to it again, and then I listened to it a third time. It's got a lot of stuff. If you're looking at writing stories, I would highly recommend this video, and I'll again link that in the description. But yeah, I didn't know anything about it. I think we just hop right into the first one.
Do the dang thing, yeah.
That's what we do here. The first one is the kind of basis for many of in the video. He said many mangas follow this. It's called Kisho Tenketsu. I apologize if I butchered that. I was going off his pronunciation. But it's got 4 main steps, and he broke it down. I didn't do any extra research into this, so take this all with a grain of salt. I may be a silly guy. Broken down into 4 steps: Ki, Sho, Ten, and Ketsu, hence the name Kisho Tenketsu. The first step being set the stage. So you would then set up your person and their world and what that looks like. Show is you would provide layers to the world and expand your world. 10 is twist. You would introduce a twist into the thing. And then Ketsu is resolve. So it's just a 4-step kind of cycle. You set the stage with your protagonist and where they're at. You would then expand on what they know and the things that they have and stuff like that. And then you would give them a twist, whether that's an obstacle they need to overcome or whatever. Hit them with a twist, and then you would write the resolution to that, and then you'd start back over. And that's Kisho Tenketsu, which seems pretty simple.
Yeah.
Then, Spencer, if you want to take it away for the one that we knew about before this.
You know it, you love it. It's the hero's journey. That was the first one I've seen.
Yep.
It seemed pretty straightforward, and it was kind of nice that it like broke everything down for me.
Mm-hmm.
From what I remember, that this is kind of a go-to for storytelling.
Yep.
One of the more popular ones. It starts off with an ordinary world.
This is kind of where you, again, set the stage with your protagonist. You see their flaws, make them relatable to the consumer of your media, whatever that be, manga or anime or whatever. You take this time to show them who the main character is in their normal space.
Step 2, the call to adventure.
This is where the opportunity arises for the protagonist to go and do something, to kind of push themselves out of their comfort zone.
Step 3, the refusal of that call.
This is when you kind of outline the fears and hesitations to go and do that, like why they're in their comfort zone. Why would they leave? Why would they do that? So I'm going to refuse the call. I just want to stay here and be my normal protagonist self.
Yeah, no, I ain't doing any of that stuff. Step 4,
Mhm.
the meeting of the mentor.
This is where they find things that they go, it either comes to them or whatever, in whatever way. They find the things that make it easier. They find the solutions to their fears, or whatever that makes it easier for them to then step out and go do the adventure.
Step 5, crossing the threshold.
This is when they actually go out and start. The last one was finding all the things they needed to start. This would be when they do the dang thing.
Actually do it.
Yeah.
Number 6, tests, allies, and enemies.
This is during the adventure when they're finding out their enemies, finding their allies, and experiencing tests, as the name suggests.
Number 7, approach innermost cave.
This is when they're kind of setting up to take on the big bad of whatever, like, this is the planning phase of the end conflict.
Step 8, the ordeal.
The ordeal is the actual main conflict, the major hurdle of the story.
Number 9, the reward.
This is when they become victorious over the main ordeal of the adventure, and then it can either be what they get as the reward can be like an object, it could be knowledge, it could be getting their friend back, it could be any number of things. This is just they beat the main bad guy and now they're getting something in return.
The real reward is the friends you made along the way.
Yeah, it always is.
Step 10, the road back.
This is so after they beat, the story doesn't just end once they get the reward. And this is something that I really like about the hero's journey, and we'll see this as we get more into the other story writing frameworks. The story doesn't end when you beat the bad guy. You still need to get home. So the road back, there's still challenges in front of your protagonist and their allies on the way back home, and that's what this step does.
Number 11, the resurrection.
This is a final hurdle that they need to overcome using everything they've learned along the way. This is a very cool thing to go back and be able to look at everything they've learned, to really go back to your story and see, oh yeah, this ally, they helped this person along the way, so maybe they can show up during the resurrection or something like that.
And finally, number 12, return with elixir.
That's the end of you kind of reflect on, they make it home, and they've solved the problem, and this is when you tie up all the loose ends. They've gotten the elixir, and they call it a day, and that's what it is. Now that's the hero's journey. Again, many Western medias use this. Um, I think that that's a a fun and interesting, easy, laid out process. 12 steps on what you're doing. Um, I don't know that that one's the best. I think that there's one that's coming up a little bit later.
It's nice too, whether it's this framework or the another one. It's like you almost fill in the blank, and you're like, all right,
Yeah.
what do we need to do?
Yeah.
An ordinary world, and you kind of flesh out like what the world is,
Yeah.
how lives, and then call to adventure. What happens to like kick the ball rolling,
Mhm.
and then you kind of plug and play. But then the plug and play is you fill in the story with your blanks.
Yeah, and it's fun because you can also combine multiple, like, just because a story framework doesn't have a call to adventure doesn't mean that you can't like be thinking about that. Like with Kisho Tenketsu, there's no like this is when your hero receives the call to action and needs to go out and do their thing. But if that's a beat that you wanted to add into that, that doesn't mean that you can't. So it's interesting to know all of these and kind of use the bits and bobs that you do like from them. The third story writing framework that is in the video is Dan Harmon's Story Circle. We talked about this a little bit before we started recording, but that is the same Dan Harmon of Rick and Morty, which was crazy to me.
When I first watched this video, it was going through and it said Story Circle and then said Dan Harmon. I'm like, I know that name.
Yeah.
And I was like, he made his own storytelling thing. And then after like hearing about it and seeing some of his work, it kind of checks out. He definitely can tell a story.
He doesn't seem like the kind of guy that is out here like doing stuff like that. And I think that that's like the best people are that. They don't appear to be someone that whatever's on the outside, and then they like sneak up and like, oh yeah, I wrote my own story writing framework. Cool.
Super cool.
But so this is he describes it as a simplified hero's journey, but it's not laid out in steps. It's laid out in one word, kind of, and not like numbered steps. It's laid out in one word. You need, go, search, find, take, return, and change is how he has them laid out. And I think that that would be an easier just like thing to remember. I don't know if you could do like some kind of mnemonic or whatever. You need, go, search, find, take, return, change was probably fine in and of itself. You don't need to make it its own thing. But then you can break it down into the bigger steps once you know those 8 words. But the first thing is you. So you establish the protagonist and then their comfort zone. And I think the comfort zone is really important because, again, any bit of the hero's journey or storytelling in general should push the main protagonist outside of their comfort zone, because otherwise nothing changes.
Yeah, then it's just about some guy.
Yeah. Then it's need. You establish what's missing from their life that they would need to go out and find. Go is you push the protagonist outside of their comfort zone to go and do the thing. Search is their bit where they need to face the obstacles to get to where they're going. Find is they discover the answer or the object that they're searching for, or whatever it may be. Take is they face a cost for finding the answer, getting the object. There is something that is taken away from the protagonist in this bit. You return, you get back to the starting point with all the things that you've gained from your adventure, and then change is you discuss kind of how the protagonist has been changed and what has changed about the starting point, and then you cycle back to you. So then you would establish the protagonist again and their comfort zone again after all the changes, and then you'd go through the list again, and that's how his story writing framework works.
In the video we're gonna link, they mentioned too this one's good for shorter stories, like again, Rick and Morty's perfect example,
Yeah.
20-minute episodes. But they said that the gentleman who does the video says that it might even be good for like comics, mangas, little strips like that, little chapters.
I would be interested in like rewatching a couple Rick and Morty episodes and like follow along with this framework just to see exactly how it's laid out in an episode.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I didn't think Rick and Morty at first, but I was thinking like an anime, and then I'm like, I don't have time to watch a
Full anime.
full anime and try to like piece together. Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
But Rick and Morty would be a good example. We
Yeah.
should definitely.
Yeah. If we're at work and just have to pull this up
Yeah.
and then be like, oh, that's Morty establishing his comfort zone. Oh, they're figuring out what they're missing right now, and now they're gonna go search for
Shows
it.
it to Dan Harmon. We figured it out. And be like, that's not what I portrayed at all. You clearly never watched my show.
All right. Then the next story writing framework. I think we still have a little bit of discussion to do, but I think this is the one that we both feel is the best for at least this iteration of Project CC. Because it's the snowflake method. It's a highly detailed and structured story writing framework. It focuses more on the world building than it does. Well, it focuses more on world building than the other ones. It really gives you time to set up your world, really figure out how it functions within the story. So this, I think, this is what we're going to go with to help us build a world, and then I would like to take a crack at any number of other of these if we finish Project CC and still have the passion that we do now to continue writing in the universe. But let's hop right into that. The first step for the snowflake method is write a 1-sentence summary on exactly what the project is. I would venture a guess that this would be the most difficult step out of the entire process, because like narrowing down what our idea is for Project CC into 1 sentence.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Like even if I've said a few episodes back, kind of I think when we started back of the book type stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like that kind of gave a broad, like, this is kind of what it's about, but I think this is more detailed than that. It's an overarching, like, this is what this is.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I think that one would be a little bit more difficult to. But then it's all downhill in a positive way from there.
Yeah, because once you've distilled your idea into 1 sentence, then you can figure out what needs to be there. Once you've distilled your idea down to 1 sentence, there's the side plot that we were thinking that we wanted in there. It's like, how does that even, like, that's not mentioned anywhere in the 1 sentence. Get that out of here. We don't need it. It's just fluff or whatever.
I like that. I like you and I both have so many ideas for dreamers.
Yeah.
But it's fun to like when you start connecting those spider webs, it's like, okay, this was a really cool thing. It just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
And to make a huge workaround to like connect the dots to it just is not interesting. It doesn't flow naturally.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I think it's going to be kind of fun to, what's the word, deduct?
Yeah.
Or like take away those ideas rather than keep throwing different ideas up on the board.
Yeah. We are both very, very big dreamers, and to have a left and right limit so it doesn't feel bad, because I'm like, oh, but I really want to tell this little story bit. Like, I think this would be really neat. And it's like, yeah, and that doesn't fit.
Yes, and
It does not fit in what our 1 sentence thing was, so we need to cut it. We don't need to cut it out of our lives.
Yeah.
Put it on a sticky note, put it in the later ideas section for any other story that we might want to tell in this universe, or if we're doing like a D&D thing down the road and we want to put it into that world, whatever. Like,
I pictured, and this would be fun, and it's not out of the realm of impossibilities, but in my mind I just picture this file cabinet of like ideas that didn't make the cut, and you're like, we're doing this D&D thing and we need this like quick little side plot, and then just open the drawer, shift through the stuff and be like, space whales, okay, here we go.
the file cabinet from Bruce Almighty.
Yeah.
That's what it would be. All right. Step number 1 is a 1-sentence summary. Step number 2 is you expand the 1-sentence summary to 1 paragraph. So that's when you can kind of flesh out kind of story beats, what you kind of want the world to be, whatever. Step number 3 is your character summaries. You pick your main characters and you give each one of them a 1-page summary, who they are, their flaws, their goals, or whatever, just like super summary. Then you expand the story. Step 4 is you expand the story to an entire page. That's when you can really start like your kind of like arcs, if you will, stuff like that. You can get into that. Step number 5 is detailed character profiles. This is like a dossier. Each one of your characters gets an entire write-up, who they are, what their flaws are, their likes, their loves, their hates, their dislikes, the people that they know, things like that. You write detailed character profiles on all of your main characters. And then
I'm really excited for that, don't get me wrong, but I'm also like just anxiety thinking about it, just creating a person that you want everybody to love, that you want to love, that you want to be related.
That you want people to
to.
hate. Like I would not necessarily hate, that might be a strong word, but like I'm a person, I think many people are, a person who likes being liked.
Mm-hmm.
So I think to create and write this person that is like the heel of the adventure or the story, I think that would be very hard for me.
There's definitely characters, anime or not, throughout story history that's I feel like people have created specifically to hate, like that you just this person that you just love to hate.
Yeah, Joffrey from Game of Thrones.
That
you get that reference.
I don't get that reference because I've never watched it. But if there's anything I know about Game of Thrones, it's that reference without having to having seen it. So.
It's so crazy to like have such an effect on the actor. Like the person that he was portraying was so hated that the actor themselves stepped away from acting because of the hate that they got for playing that character.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But detailed character profiles, step 6 is you break your story into scenes. This is exactly what again, you start kind of storyboarding, and this is what every bit needs to look like. 7 is you expand each scene. You start breaking into like dialogue and set pieces and things like that within the scene. Step 8 is you refine the dialogue and the actions for each scene. Step 9 is you finalize the plot and the structure. This is when you would read through all your things, look for plot holes, look for things that are just kind of erroneous or don't make sense, or what you can cut and really refine it to be exactly if in Act 1 somebody's got a gun, in Act 2 or Act 3 the gun needs to go off. So if you have somebody with a gun in Act 1, you just remove them unless you have a plan for it going off in Act 2 or 3. And then 10 is you tweak your manuscript. You go through and you make it as like ready for production as you can. And then that is the snowflake method. Again, I think that's the one we're gonna more than likely end up going with for this project.
Kyler likes things extra difficult. but he's right though. If we're doing a thing, we may as well build it from the ground up. It makes logically the most sense.
Yeah. And next up, this is the one that I like the most. This is one that I hope down the road, after we've explored and experimented with Project CC and exactly what that has to offer, and we get that to a point that we like, I would really like to write a story in the universe, our universe, with the Save the Cat story writing framework. Sorry, brain fart. This one in the video, he says it's a lot like One Punch Man, but the main thing for the Save the Cat story writing framework is out of the gate. You need to have your protagonist gain the favor of the audience by doing something like saving a cat. So the first step in the Save the Cat framework is opening image. You need a strong moment that shows their protagonist in their world and kind of the thing that they want to change, but it's a very like easily like this is who the protagonist is. This is the kind of person they are. This is the thing that they want. Step 2 is the theme is stated. This is the theme of your overall project. If it's going to kind of be like gritty or whatever, this is the time when you take out to show that to the audience. It doesn't need to like be stated like the step says, but that's when you again if
Know
it's a
exactly
gritty
what
if it's
kind
a
of a story.
yeah if it's a gritty thing, then you have somebody dying out the gate or whatever, or have that just like it's a war zone, blah blah whatever. Step 3 is setup. You establish the world, everything that's kind of outside of the purview of the protagonist, just what the space that they're existing in. Step 4 is the catalyst. This is the disruption to the protagonist um, that would make them need to or want to step out and do the adventure. Debate is when the protagonist confronts their fears and doubts. Then step 6 is break into Act 2. This is when the protagonist commits to the adventure. Step 7 is introduce a B story, something that adds to the main storyline, but is just an additional story to keep the uh, viewers or whatever interested. Step 8 is fun and games. This is it sounds simple. It's like just whatever, but this is when you get to, as the writer, have your fun. This is you exploring the space in whatever theme, whatever you're doing. This is when you really get to tell your story in the way that you want to. Step 9 is the midpoint. This is when your twist would kick in. Step 10 is the bad guys close in. This is the protagonist kind of getting a fire lit underneath them to do the dang thing and hurry up, ramp up the like suspense or drama there. Step 11 is all is lost. This is when the protagonist would hit rock bottom, the moments when your audience would really feel for them. Step 12 is Dark Night of the Soul. This is when your protagonist reflects on everything that they've done and learned, and they can build from there. Step 13 is break into Act 3. This is the protagonist taking a bold action. Step 14 is the finale. This is the ultimate challenge, the final boss, whatever. And then step 15 is the final image. This is to show how your protagonist has changed over the journey. And the gentleman in the video says that it should be almost a like carbon copy of the opening image, but changed. So if your like person was rich or poor and they wanted to be rich, you would have them like standing on their like apartment balcony overlooking the city, and it's just like, ugh, I just want to be rich or whatever. And then the final scene would be them like standing out on the balcony of their mansion, looking over their like field of supercars or whatever. And it's just like a one-to-one comparison of where they were at the start of the journey to where they are at the end of the journey.
I would love to watch. That's another thing I'd love to watch for too, is shows that implemented that or things. Because the way you described it, I've seen that before. I've definitely like,
Yeah.
and now that I'm a little more aware of it, I'd be interested to be like, ah,
Yeah, and that I also have seen that in many things. I love the Monsters University. The opening act when Mike Wazowski goes in the room with the scarer and he does his little bit to scare the kid, and then the finale scene when Mike Wazowski is doing the scare test to win his frat, the scare cup or whatever it's called. They are a 1-to-1. Exactly what the dude did in the opening scene is what Mike does in the ending scene. And like I'd watched Monsters University probably a dozen times with the boy before I noticed that. And that's one of those where you're like, he's doing the thing.
Yeah.
That's very, very cool. But yeah, that's one of those that like the opening image and the final image. Opening image is he's a excited kid that wants to be a scarer, and then the final image is he's doing the thing, he's scaring, and he's potentially winning his group the scare cup. Very cool. I really love that one. Again, I think that one speaks to me the most. It doesn't super fit with what we're doing right now. We had this conversation right before we started. I think we need that like super world building heavy. Once we have the world built, then we can kind of expand into things that require us to explore the world less. But specifically with Project CC, I think the world is such a big main character that we need something that really shines a light on it. Again, we will link the video in the description. We've somehow talked about them for twice as long as the video talks about them and half as detailed, so enjoy that. Thank you guys. Do you have anything else before we close out? Anything else at all?
Just thank you, and I love you.
Yeah, thank you, and I love you too. If you're still listening to us for whatever reason, do all the algorithmy things. We love to hear from you. If you want to do a comment anywhere, we'd love to hear from you guys for sure. But as we always love to say, stay safe out there.
And don't get mugged.
If you are struggling, please, please, please reach out to someone or dial 988 to get connected with someone at the National Suicide Hotline. You do not have to go it alone.